Jack Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as the hot Amazon sun beat down on the wooden deck of the research station. 3 years he had worked here, studying the giant snakes that ruled these waters, and still the heat got to him sometimes. He leaned against the railing, looking out at the vast wetland that stretched before him. The water was dark and still, hiding its secrets below the surface. This morning was different from all others in human history. The message had come just after breakfast. Aliens had arrived on Earth. Not just anywhere on Earth, but here at this remote research station deep in the Amazon. They wanted to learn about Earth's wetlands, and somehow Jack had been chosen to show them. The sound of the helicopter broke through the chorus of birds and insects. Jack shielded his eyes, watching as it descended onto the small landing pad. His heart beat faster. He had studied animals all his life, but nothing had prepared him for this. The helicopter blades slowed, and the door slid open. First came 2 government officials in dark suits looking uncomfortable in the jungle heat. Then came the visitors. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The aliens were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to change color slightly as they moved, shifting between shades of blue. They had no hair, and their eyes were large and dark, set in faces that looked almost human but not quite. They moved with a strange grace, as if the Earth's gravity was stronger than what they were used to. "Dr. Miller," one of the officials called out, "this is the delegation from the Keldari. They've asked specifically to learn about Earth's wetland ecosystems." Jack stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "Welcome to the Amazon Wetlands Research Station. I'm Jack Miller." The tallest of the 3 aliens stepped forward. "I am Zextra, lead researcher of biological systems for the Galactic Federation. These are my colleagues Vala and Rivon." The alien's voice had a musical quality, though Jack realized he was hearing it through some kind of translator device attached to its neck. "It's an honor to meet you," Jack said, shaking the alien's 6-fingered hand. The skin felt cool and slightly damp, like a frog's. Susan Wright, the station's ecologist, joined them on the deck. She was better with people than Jack was, and he was grateful for her presence. "We've prepared quarters for you," she said to the visitors. "You must be tired after your journey." Zextra made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Our journey began 3 light years away, but the final helicopter ride was indeed taxing. Your atmosphere is very thick compared to our homeworld." The aliens settled into the station with surprising ease. They needed less oxygen than humans, and found the humid air comfortable. By evening, they sat with Jack and Susan on the observation deck, watching the sunset turn the water to gold. "We have studied many worlds," Zextra said, sipping carefully from a glass of water. "But Earth is special. The variety of life here exceeds anything we have found elsewhere." "We're pretty proud of our biodiversity," Susan agreed. "Yet something puzzles us," Zextra continued. "In our research of human history and settlement patterns, we noticed something strange. Your species builds homes in areas prone to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and severe storms. You create cities in deserts and on the sides of mountains. But you avoid wetlands. You drain them, build around them, but rarely in them. Why?" Jack and Susan exchanged glances. "That's an interesting observation," Jack said. "I guess we've never thought about it that way." "Your literature contains many references to swamps as places of danger and evil," Vala added. "Is this a cultural bias, or is there a practical reason?" Jack leaned forward. "It's not that simple. Wetlands are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth. They filter water, prevent floods, and support incredible biodiversity. But they're also dangerous, especially to a species like ours that isn't adapted to them." "Dangerous how?" asked Rivon, speaking for the first time. "What predators could threaten beings capable of building spacecraft and cities?" Jack smiled. "Tomorrow I'll show you. We have a tracking expedition planned. One of our research subjects is a female green anaconda. We call her the Empress." "Anaconda?" Zextra's translator seemed to struggle with the word. "It's a type of snake," Susan explained. "A constrictor. The green anaconda is the heaviest snake species on Earth." "How large is this specimen?" asked Vala. "The Empress is over 20 feet. Long and weighs about 550 pounds, Jack said. The aliens were silent for a moment. Then Zextra's translator made a strange sound, like it was recalculating. There must be an error in translation, Zexitra said finally. No serpentiform creature could reach such size without technological enhancement. Jack laughed. No error. And the Empress isn't even the largest on record. Green anacondas can grow even bigger. And these creatures, they attack humans? Rivon asked. It's rare, but it happens, Jack said. They're ambush predators. They hide in the water and strike when prey comes close. They can overpower animals much larger than themselves, wrap around them and squeeze until they can't breathe. Then they swallow them whole. The alien's skin seemed to pale slightly. Your species willingly studies such creatures? Zextra asked. At close range? That's our job, Susan said. Understanding these animals helps us protect both them and ourselves. Jack stood up. Tomorrow you'll see the Empress in her natural habitat. Then you'll understand why humans have always been cautious around swamps. That night, as Jack checked his equipment for the next day's expedition, he could hear the aliens talking among themselves in their own language. He couldn't understand the words, but their tone conveyed clear amazement and perhaps a touch of fear. Jack smiled to himself. The Keldari had traveled across the stars in ships beyond human technology. They were part of a vast galactic community that humanity had only just learned existed. Yet tomorrow, Earth would show them something their advanced civilization had never produced. A creature that had been perfecting its hunting skills for millions of years. A living relic of the age of dinosaurs. Tomorrow, the aliens would learn why humans both feared and respected the wild places of their world, and Jack couldn't wait to see their reaction when the Empress made her appearance. As darkness fell over the Amazon, the sounds of the swamp rose up around the station, the calls of frogs and night birds, the splash of creatures moving through water. Somewhere out there, the Empress was hunting, her massive body sliding silently through the black water, patient and perfect, as she had been for millions of years before humans walked the earth. The morning sun broke through the trees, casting long shadows across the water. Jack checked his backpack one last time. Water bottles, first aid kit, tracking device, camera, and extra batteries. He pulled on thick boots that went up to his knees and slipped a long knife into a sheath on his belt. The three Keldari aliens watched him with their large, dark eyes. They had dressed in the protective clothing Jack had given them, though it fit their tall, thin bodies poorly. Is all this protection necessary? Asked Vala, tugging at the tight sleeves of her jacket. The sun here is stronger than you're used to, Susan explained as she joined them. And there are insects that can carry diseases. Better safe than sorry. Neil Clark, a young researcher who had joined the station 6 months ago, completed their group. He carried a metal pole with a hook on the end and a tranquilizer gun slung over his shoulder. Are we hunting this creature? Zextra asked, eyeing the gun. No, Jack said. The gun is just a precaution. We're here to observe, not to harm. They set off in a small boat, motoring slowly through the main river before turning into a narrow channel. The trees grew thicker here, their branches meeting overhead to form a green tunnel. The air was heavy with moisture and the sweet smell of rotting plants. After 20 minutes, Jack cut the engine. We'll go on foot from here, he said, guiding the boat to a muddy bank. The water was dark and still, broken only by the occasional ripple of something moving beneath the surface. Dragonflies hovered over lily pads, and somewhere in the distance monkeys called to each other. Stay close, Jack warned as they stepped into the water. Walk where I walk, and don't touch anything unless I say it's safe. The aliens moved carefully, their eyes darting from the water to the trees and back again. The water rose to their knees, then their waists as they followed Jack deeper into the swamp. On our world we have no places like this, Rivon said quietly, as if afraid to disturb the silence. Our wetlands are managed, controlled. You can't control a place like this, Neil said with a laugh. The Amazon has been here long before. Humans. And it'll be here long after we're gone. Jack held up a hand for silence, his eyes fixed on the tracking device in his other hand. The small screen showed a blinking dot moving slowly about 100 yards ahead of them. She's close, he whispered. The Empress is hunting. They moved forward more slowly now, each step careful and deliberate. Jack pointed to a pattern in the water ahead, a slight disturbance that most people would never notice. "There," he breathed. "Do you see it? That's her back, just breaking the surface." The aliens stared, their bodies perfectly still. At first, they saw nothing. Then as their eyes adjusted, they made out a subtle pattern in the water, scales that might have been mistaken for ripples or shadows. "That's the snake?" Vala asked, her voice barely audible. "Just the top of her back," Jack confirmed. "Most of her body is underwater. She's waiting." They watched in silence as minutes ticked by. The jungle sounds continued around them, birds calling, insects humming, the soft plop of frogs jumping into the water. But in that small patch of swamp, everything was still. Then, from a branch overhanging the water, a capybara appeared. The large rodent, about the size of a small dog, sniffed the air cautiously before climbing down toward the water's edge. It was thirsty, and this was its usual drinking spot. "Watch," Jack whispered. The capybara reached the water and bent its head to drink. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the water exploded. The anaconda struck with incredible speed. 1 second it was hidden, the next its massive head shot forward, jaws open wide. The capybara had no time to react. The snake's teeth caught it by the neck, and in one powerful movement, the anaconda pulled its prey into the water. The aliens gasped in unison. Even prepared as they were, the speed and violence of the attack shocked them. The water churned as the huge snake wrapped its coils around the struggling capybara. Each loop of its body was as thick as a man's thigh, the muscles rippling beneath patterned skin. "She'll squeeze now," Jack explained, his voice calm and professional despite the violent scene before them. "Every time the capybara exhales, she'll tighten her grip a little more. Eventually it won't be able to breathe." The struggle lasted only minutes. The capybara's movements grew weaker, then stopped altogether. The anaconda held on for a while longer, making sure its prey was truly dead. "Now comes the really impressive part," Susan said. The massive snake began to position its prey, maneuvering the capybara until its head was aligned with the snake's mouth. Then, slowly, the anaconda began to open its jaws. "Their jaws are connected by stretchy ligaments," Jack explained as the aliens watched in horrified fascination. "They can open their mouths wide enough to swallow prey much larger than their own head." The anaconda's jaws stretched around the capybara's head, then its shoulders. With rhythmic movements, it pushed its prey deeper into its mouth, using its teeth to grip and pull. "She'll digest it whole," Neil added. "Her stomach acids are incredibly strong. In a week or two, there will be nothing left but fur and bones." The aliens were speechless. Their skin had taken on a pale, almost white shade that Jack guessed was their equivalent of turning pale with shock. "And these creatures, they can attack humans?" Zexitra finally asked. "A snake this size could kill a human easily," Jack confirmed. "It's rare, but it happens. That's why we never come here alone, and why we're always careful." "But there's more to the swamp than anacondas," Susan said. "Look around you. This water is home to electric eels that can deliver shocks of up to 600 volts. There are piranhas that can strip flesh from bone in minutes, parasites so small you can't see them, but that can enter your body and cause terrible diseases. Yet you come here willingly," Rivon said, looking at Jack with new respect. "You study these creatures up close." Jack nodded. "That's what humans do. We explore, we learn, we adapt. But we never forget the dangers." They watched as the anaconda, now with a large bulge in its middle where the capybara was, slowly moved away through the water. Despite its size and the meal it had just consumed, it moved with surprising grace, barely disturbing the surface. "The Empress will find a sunny spot to rest now," Jack said. "Digesting that meal will take all her energy for days." As they turned to head back to the boat, Zextra stopped and looked at Jack. "I think I understand now," the alien said. "Your caution around swamps isn't simple fear. It's respect for a place where you are not the apex predator." Jack smiled. "Exactly. And tomorrow, I'll show you something even the anaconda fears. The group made their way back through the swamp, more quietly than before. Each alien seemed lost in thought, processing what they had seen. The galaxy they came from had many wonders, but nothing quite like the perfect killing machine they had just witnessed. A creature unchanged for millions of years, because it needed no improvement. Back at the station, as the sun began to set, Jack could hear the aliens talking among themselves in their own language. He couldn't understand the words, but their tone was clear enough. For the first time, they were seeing humans in a new light, not just as clever toolmakers, but as survivors of a world filled with dangers they had never imagined. The research station was quiet as night fell over the Amazon. Jack sat on the deck with the 3 Keldari aliens, the sounds of the swamp rising around them. Frogs croaked, insects buzzed, and occasionally something large would splash in the distant water. Your world never truly sleeps, does it? Zextra observed, looking out at the dark water. The Amazon is always alive. Jack agreed. Day or night, something is always hunting, hiding, or searching for a mate. I accessed your species. Historical records today, Vala said, her large eyes reflecting the dim light from the station. Snakes appear in many of your oldest stories, often as symbols of danger or evil. That's true, Susan said as she joined them, carrying a tray with cups of coffee for the humans and water for the aliens. Almost every human culture has myths about giant serpents. Is it because they are truly dangerous to you? Rivan asked. Or is it something deeper? Both, probably, Jack said, taking a cup from Susan. Some scientists think humans might have evolved a natural fear of snakes. Our ancestors who were quick to spot snake-like shapes and run away lived longer and had more children than those who didn't. Yet you study them willingly, Zextra noted. Jack smiled. That's another human trait. We're curious. Sometimes our curiosity is stronger than our fear. When I watched the anaconda take that creature today, Zextra said slowly, I felt something strange. My limbs grew cold. My breathing changed. My thoughts became disorganized. That sounds like fear, Neil said from where he sat cleaning equipment. It's a normal response. Fear. Zextra repeated the word carefully. Yes, I believe that is correct. We have a similar concept, though we experience it differently. It is unsettling. Tomorrow I'll show you something that might cause that feeling again, Jack said, but it will help you understand our relationship with the swamp better. The aliens looked at him with interest. What will we see? Vala asked. Jack leaned forward. Something even the Empress fears. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Jack led the group to a different part of the swamp, farther from the station than they had gone before. They traveled by boat through winding channels until they reached a wide, open area where the tree canopy opened up to the sky. This is a seasonal pool, Jack explained as they slowed to a stop. During the rainy season, it fills and becomes a feeding ground for many species. The pool was alive with activity. Fish jumped, sending ripples across the surface. Birds swooped down to catch them. At the edges, smaller creatures came to drink or hunt. It's beautiful, Vala said, watching a colorful frog hop from one lily pad to another. It's also dangerous, Jack said. More dangerous than anywhere else in the swamp. This is where predators come to hunt. He pointed to a familiar pattern, moving through the water at the far edge of the pool. There's an anaconda, Susan said. Not the Empress, but still a large one. The aliens watched as the snake moved purposefully through the water, but something was strange about its behavior. It's staying close to the edge, Neil observed, away from the center of the pool where all the fish are. It's avoiding the feeding frenzy, Jack confirmed. Can you guess why? The aliens watched, carefully. Then Zextra pointed to a dark shape moving slowly through the deeper part of the pool. There's something else in the water, the alien said. Something large. Jack nodded with approval. Good eye. That's a black caiman, a relative of alligators and crocodiles. This one's a male, probably 16 feet long. The black shape moved, with surprising speed for its size. causing smaller fish to scatter in panic. The caiman is one of the few predators that can and will hunt adult anacondas, Susan explained. Even a snake as large as the Empress would avoid a caiman this size. The aliens watched in fascination as the massive reptile patrolled the waters. Even from a distance, they could see its armored back and the ridges above its eyes. Your planet maintains such a perfect balance, Zextra said after a while. Each predator is itself prey to another. That's the lesson we wanted you to understand, Jack said. Humans don't fear swamps because we're weak. We fear them because we're smart enough to recognize our place in the food chain. He gestured to the water around them. Every creature here, from the smallest parasite to the largest predator, demands respect. As if to emphasize his point, the caiman suddenly lunged forward with incredible speed. There was a violent splash, and when the water cleared, the reptile was swimming away with a large fish in its jaws. In all our explorations, Vala said quietly, we've never encountered an ecosystem with such intensity. Perhaps this explains much about your species. How so? Asked Susan. You evolved on a world where even the water contains countless ways to die, Zextra replied. Yet instead of avoiding these places entirely, you study them. You develop tools to mitigate the dangers. You learn to navigate environments that should, by all logic, be uninhabitable to beings of your physical capabilities. Jack smiled as he watched the massive caiman slip beneath the surface, disappearing as completely as if it had never existed. That's humanity in a nutshell, he said. We're not the strongest or the fastest species, but we're really good at surviving places. We probably shouldn't. The boat drifted closer to the shore and Jack pointed to a tree branch hanging low over the water. Look there, he whispered. Coiled on the branch was a massive snake, the Empress. She was watching the pool with unblinking eyes, her body perfectly still. She's hunting, Neil said. But she's staying in the trees, away from the caiman. She's being cautious, Jack corrected. She knows the caiman is there and she knows it could kill her, so she waits and watches, looking for a safer opportunity to feed. As they watched, the Empress slid silently from the branch into the water, but she stayed in the shallows, away from where the caiman hunted. Even the most dangerous predator must be cautious sometimes, Jack said. That's the way of the swamp. That's why humans approach it with respect, not just fear. The aliens were quiet for a long time after that, watching the complex dance of predator and prey playing out before them. When they finally spoke, it was with a new understanding in their voices. Your species has surprised us, Zextra admitted. When we first came to Earth, we thought of humans as fragile creatures who had survived through luck and tool use. Now I see that you are much more than that. What do you mean? Susan asked. You are students of danger, Zextra said. You observe it, understand it, respect it, and then you find ways to survive despite it. That is remarkable. Jack smiled. There's an old saying among people who work in dangerous places. It's not the strongest who survive, but those who most accurately perceive their situation and adapt to it. As they turned the boat to head back to the station, the aliens took one last look at the pool where the great predators hunted. Somewhere beneath that dark water, the caiman waited. In the shallows, the Empress searched for prey. And above them all, humans watched and learned and survived. I think I finally understand, Rivan said as the boat's engine hummed to life. You don't fear the swamp at all, you respect it. Jack nodded. That's right, and that respect is what keeps us alive. That evening, the research station buzzed with activity. Word had spread about the alien visitors, and several local guides and researchers from nearby stations had come to meet them. Jack watched as the Keldari spoke with the newcomers, their initial nervousness replaced by genuine curiosity. Among the visitors was Maria Gonzalez, an older woman who had lived in the Amazon all her life. She was not a scientist but knew the swamp better than anyone. The local people respected her as a healer and wise woman. So these are the star people, Maria said to Jack as she watched the aliens. They look like tall blue children. Jack laughed. They might be children compared to us in some ways. Their world doesn't have places like this. No anacondas, no caimans. No wonder they look at us with such big eyes, Maria said. To live with the great serpent and still smile, that must seem like magic to them. Zextra approached them, having overheard their conversation with the alien's sensitive hearing. You speak of the anaconda with respect but not fear, the alien said to Maria. Why? Maria smiled, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. The great serpent is just living its life, the same as you and me. It hunts because it must eat. It hides because it must survive. There is no evil in that. But it could kill you, Vala said, joining them. Many things could kill me, Maria replied with a shrug. A falling tree, a river flood, a sickness. Should I fear them all and never leave my home? The aliens considered this. Jack showed us the caiman today, Zextra said. A predator that hunts even the great serpent. Maria nodded. The world is a circle. The fish eats the plant. The frog eats the insect. The snake eats the frog. The caiman eats the snake. And when the caiman dies, it feeds the plants and insects. Nothing is ever wasted. And where do humans fit in this circle? Rivon asked. Maria's face grew serious. That is the question we must always ask ourselves. Some humans think they stand outside the circle, above it. They cut down trees, poison rivers, kill animals for sport. They forget they are part of the same world. But not you, Zextra observed. Not those of us who live close to the forest, Maria agreed. We remember that we depend on the same water, the same air as the anaconda and the caiman. We take what we need, no more. The conversation continued late into the night. The aliens asked questions about local customs, about how people lived alongside such dangerous creatures, about what it meant to be human in a place where humans were not the strongest creatures. The next morning, Jack had a surprise for the aliens. Today we're going to visit a nearby village, he told them as they ate breakfast. People who have lived in the Amazon for countless generations. The trip took several hours by boat. They traveled down the main river, past stretches of forest occasionally broken by small clearings. Finally, they reached a cluster of wooden houses built on stilts above the water. Children ran to greet them, their eyes wide with excitement at the sight of the blue-skinned visitors. Adults followed more slowly, curious but cautious. A man stepped forward to greet them. Welcome to our home, he said in accented English. I am Carlos. Maria told us you were coming. The aliens bowed respectfully, having learned this was a human custom of greeting. Carlos led them through the village. It was simple but well organized. Fishing nets hung to dry. Gardens grew on patches of higher ground. Chickens pecked in the dirt beneath the raised houses. You live very close to the water, Zextra observed. Aren't you afraid of the creatures in it? Carlos smiled. We respect them. We know when and where it is safe to swim or fish. We know the signs of danger. He led them to a large open building in the center of the village. Inside, the walls were covered with paintings. Many showed anacondas, painted with bright colors and intricate patterns. The great serpent is sacred to us, Carlos explained. Not a god, but a teacher. It shows us how to be patient, how to use our strength wisely, how to survive. The alien studied the paintings with interest. You honor the very creature that could kill you, Vala said, her voice filled with wonder. We honor all that is powerful, Carlos replied. The river that gives us fish, but can also flood. The forest that gives us fruit and medicine, but can also hide dangers. The sun that gives us warmth, but can also burn. As they continued through the village, they saw more signs of how these people had adapted to life in the swamp. Their boats were designed to move silently through shallow water. Their fishing tools were clever traps that caught fish but allowed young ones to escape. Their houses stayed dry even in the rainy season when the water rose. Your people have found a balance, Zexitra said to Carlos. You live with danger, not against it. Carlos nodded. It is the only way to survive here. Fight the swamp, and you will lose. Learn from it, and you will live. Later, they joined the villagers for a meal. Fish caught that morning, fruit from the forest and vegetables from the gardens. As they ate, people told stories. Many were about close encounters with anacondas or caimans, tales of narrow escapes and lessons learned. Jack watched the aliens' reactions. They were beginning to understand something important about humans. Not just the scientists who studied the swamp, but the people who lived in it every day. In our galaxy, Zextra said quietly to Jack, we have encountered many species. Some are physically stronger than humans, some are faster, some live longer lives, but few have your ability to adapt to live in places that should kill you. It's not just about technology, Jack replied. Though that helps, it's about understanding. Yes, Zextra agreed. You study the anaconda not just to avoid it, but to learn from it. You observe how it hunts, how it moves, how it survives, and then you use that knowledge. As the sun began to set, they prepared to return to the research station. The villagers gave the aliens small gifts, woven bracelets, carved wooden animals, a painting of an anaconda made with natural dyes. Come back someday, Carlos said as they boarded the boat. There is always more to learn about the swamp. On the journey back, the aliens were quiet, processing all they had seen and heard. The river flowed around them, dark and mysterious in the fading light. Occasionally, ripples on the surface hinted at the life beneath. Tomorrow is our last day on Earth, Zextra finally said. What else can you show us about your relationship with these dangerous creatures? Jack smiled. I've saved the most important lesson for last. The final day of the Keldari visit dawned bright and clear. Jack woke early and found the aliens already on the deck of the research station, watching the sunrise over the Amazon. Their blue skin glowed orange in the early light. Today is our last day on Earth, Zextra said as Jack joined them. We've seen much, but you said there was one more important lesson. Jack nodded. The most important one. Get ready for a hike. We're going somewhere special. After breakfast, Jack led the group along a narrow trail that wound through the forest. Unlike their previous expeditions, they stayed on dry land, climbing gradually uphill. Where are we going? Vala asked, ducking under a low-hanging branch. You'll see, Jack replied with a smile. After an hour of hiking, they reached a small clearing on a rise. From this spot, they could see for miles across the Amazon basin. The river wound like a great snake through the endless green of the forest. In the distance where the river widened, they could make out the blue-gray waters of a large lake. It's beautiful, Rivon said, taking in the view. It's more than that, Jack said. It's a living system. From up here you can see how everything connects. The river feeds the swamp feeds the forest. The forest shelters countless species, including the anacondas and caimans we've been studying. He pointed to a distant patch of brown in the otherwise green landscape. See that? That's where humans have cleared the forest, just a small area, but it affects everything around it. The soil erodes into the river. The water quality changes. The animals lose their homes. The aliens studied the scene with their large eyes. You're showing us that humans can damage this system, Zextra said. Yes, Jack agreed. But I'm also showing you something else. Look there. He pointed to another area, where the forest seemed to be growing back over what had once been cleared land. 10 years ago, that was all bare ground. Now the forest is returning. That's the work of our research station and others like it. We study the swamp and its creatures not just out of curiosity, but to protect them. Susan, who had been quiet for most of the hike, spoke up. The anaconda isn't just a dangerous predator to us. It's an important part of the ecosystem. If it disappeared, other species would grow out of control. The balance would be lost. So you protect even the creatures that could kill you? Vala said thoughtfully. Especially those, Jack replied. The greatest predators are often the most vulnerable. They need large territories. They need abundant prey. When humans change the environment, they're often the first to suffer. They sat in the clearing for a while, sharing water and fruit as Jack and Susan explained more about their work. They talked about tracking anacondas to understand their movements, about working with local communities to reduce conflicts between humans and wildlife. about teaching children to respect rather than fear the creatures of the swamp. "There's something I don't understand," Rivon said finally. "You've shown us that humans are weaker than many creatures here. You've shown us that even your most dangerous predators are vulnerable. But where does that leave humans? Are you predators or prey in this system?" Jack smiled. "Neither. Or both. That's the final lesson. Humans are part of the system, but we're also apart from it. We can change it more than any other species. We can destroy it or protect it. That's our responsibility. It's why we study the anaconda," Susan added. "Not just to avoid being eaten, but to understand our place in the world it inhabits." As they began their hike back to the station, a sudden movement caught their attention. On a branch overhanging the trail, a snake was coiled, watching them. It wasn't an anaconda. It was smaller, more brightly colored. "Don't move," Jack said quietly. "That's a fer de lance, one of the most venomous snakes in the Amazon." The aliens froze, their skin paling slightly. "It's beautiful," Zextra whispered, looking at the snake's intricate pattern. "Yes," Jack agreed. "And deadly. Its venom can kill a human in hours, but it's not evil. It's just living its life, the same as us." The snake watched them for a long moment, then slid away into the leaves, disappearing as if it had never been there. "You didn't try to kill it," Vala observed as they continued down the trail. "Even though it threatened you." "It wasn't threatening us," Jack corrected. "It was just assessing whether we were a threat to it. Once it decided we weren't, it left us alone. That's the relationship we try to have with all the creatures here," Susan explained. "Mutual respect, mutual space." Back at the research station, the aliens prepared for their departure. Their ship would arrive at sunset to take them back to the stars. As they waited, Zextra presented Jack with a small device. "This contains our observations of your world," the alien said. "It will be shared with the Galactic Federation. I want you to know what we have concluded." Jack activated the device. A holographic display appeared, showing text in the alien language. But it translated itself as he watched. Earth assessment. Despite appearing physically vulnerable, humans must be classified as an apex species, not because they fear nothing, but because they have learned to study, understand, and coexist with everything they fear. Their ability to adapt to environments that should, by all logic, be lethal to them suggests a resilience that would serve them well in galactic society. Of particular note is humanity's relationship with Earth's predator species. Rather than exterminating creatures that threaten them, as most evolving species do, humans have developed the capacity to respect and even protect such threats. This indicates a level of ecological awareness rare among technological species. Recommendation: Earth should be approached with diplomatic caution and respect. Humans have evolved alongside creatures like the anaconda that most species would find nightmarish. A species that chose to study rather than exterminate such beings will not be easily intimidated by the challenges of galactic civilization. Jack looked up from the device, meeting Zextra's gaze. "Is this a warning to your people about us?" he asked. "Not a warning," the alien replied. "An acknowledgement. Most species we encounter either dominate their worlds completely or remain limited by their natural predators. Humans have found a third path. You neither conquered your predators nor remained their prey. You learned to live alongside them, to understand them, even as you built your civilizations." As the sun set, a light appeared in the sky, the Keldari ship coming to retrieve its people. The three aliens gathered their few belongings and stood on the deck of the research station one last time. "We came to study your swamps," Zextra said. "We leave having studied humanity instead." "I think we learned more than we expected," Jack smiled. "The swamp has a way of teaching unexpected lessons." The aliens bowed in farewell, then walked toward the clearing where their ship would land. Just before they disappeared into the trees, Vala turned back. "We have visited 1,000 worlds," she called, "but none where the inhabitants study the very creatures that could destroy them, simply to understand them better. Your anacondas are fearsome, but humans are something else entirely." With that, they were gone, leaving Jack and his colleagues standing on the deck as darkness fell over the Amazon. Somewhere in the night the Empress was hunting. The Caimans were watching. The swamp was alive with danger and beauty, and humans were there to study it all, to learn from it, to protect it. Not because they had conquered their fears, but because they had learned to live with them,